let's analyze this. So, we are 2 days removed from the WWE Royal Rumble 2019 event, pay-per-view, whatever you want to call it, that took place this past Sunday, January 27th, 2019 at Chase Field in Phoenix, Arizona. Drew 48,193 fans, which I'm sure will be disputed down the line at some point. This was a pretty good show. But it was way too freaking long. Before we get into this review, I just want to clarify and state that I did not watch the pre-show. I know I might get a lot of hate for that, but quite frankly, I don't give a damn. I already watched 2 hours of NXT TakeOver Phoenix. On top of that, 5 hours of the main show of the Royal Rumble. That is 7 hours of wrestling that I watched in 2 days. Do not judge me, okay? I was not about to watch 9, almost 10 hours of wrestling in 2 days on top of that. I was not about to do that. This show almost went off at midnight. Midnight here in the East Coast. That is ridiculous. Extremely ridiculous. But I will not complain too much because the fans over at the UK had it even worse. I believe they started watching the event around 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and they were up till 5, almost 6 in the morning watching this shit. So, mad respect to the fans overseas that had to tolerate with the length of this show. But I did not watch the pre-show, so I will not be covering the pre-show. I might go back and watch the pre-show eventually at some point, but right now I will not be covering it. So if you're looking for someone to cover the pre-show, you can go on someone else's platform or channel and watch and hear what they have to say. So we're going to start off with the opener. It was Asuka defending the SmackDown Women's title against the man, Becky Lynch, who is the most over wrestler in the entire company right now and has been for the last several months. This match was okay. I was very worried about how these two were gonna work this match Sunday night because I know that they didn't have too many one-on-one matches against each other, and I don't think they ever had a one-on-one match against each other after Becky altered her character / gimmick. I know they worked a lot of triple threats with Charlotte, which that means nothing compared to working with somebody one-on-one. So there's a complete difference between those two environments. This match was kind of strange. It had some strange spots. I wrote here in my notes, because yes, I took notes for this event. I didn't take notes for TakeOver, and I feel like I didn't do that good of a job in terms of my review of TakeOver because of me not taking any notes. But there was this one spot that was over at ringside, but on the entrance way side of the ring, where both of them, Asuka and Becky, were on the ring apron, and Asuka went for some type of fisherman move, and it looked like they botched this spot. I'm not quite sure. Maybe it was meant to be some sort of DDT / facebuster type maneuver, but I thought that Asuka was gonna give Becky a fisherman suplex out to the floor off of the apron. But instead, they kind of turned it into a neck breaker, sort of. It was very weird, very strange. But this was a hard-hitting match. It was very much so a hard-hitting match. And it was really good. It was a great way to kick off the show. At least the kickoff of the main show. Not the kickoff, but it was very hard-hitting, very good. I didn't realize that this match was 17 minutes. I thought it was a little shorter than that. It seemed like it was shorter than that watching it live. Asuka got Becky to tap out with the cattle mutilation. That was not a reverse last chancery for anybody that said that for some reason. It was not a reverse last chancery. It was a cattle mutilation. That was a move that Daniel Bryan used to do back in the Indies. And he even did it a few times within the first 2 years of his run in the WWE. But that's what that was, a cattle mutilation, which I was very shocked that she did that. And I was just like, wow, that's cool. So Asuka retained, had Becky tap out to the cattle mutilation. Some people have complained about Becky tapping out, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, so you knew that she was going to come back and be in the women's Rumble match and possibly win, yet you're still complaining that she tapped out to Asuka. Even after the show has long been over and she won the Rumble, there are some fans that are still complaining about Asuka making her submit. Which, come on now, we gotta stop getting super emotional when it comes to debating and talking about certain things when it comes to wrestling. This is ridiculous. Okay, this is ridiculous. So Asuka retained. She needed to retain. I wanted her to retain because they have to slowly build back up. I don't want to say what they destroyed, even though losing to Carmella twice is not a good thing for anybody. Losing to Carmella is equally as bad as losing to Alexa Bliss multiple times. It's not good because they're not. And this is not me spewing on the hate train. This is none of that because I don't hate any wrestler. Well, I kind of hated Great Khali. I ain't gonna lie. I thought that he was annoying to see. At least post heel run when he first came in. But I digress. Carmella and Alexa, I don't hate them. And Alexa, based on what I saw from her at the Rumble, she put in some work at the Performance Center when she went to train for her in-ring return. She put in some work at the Performance Center, and it showed. It showed Sunday. Carmella is, I don't know what's with Carmella. Carmella is just not good. I can't, like, she's not good. They called her up from NXT too early, in my view. And it's bad enough that they called her up too early, but on top of that, they didn't have her with Enzo and Cass. So what was the point of even calling her up if you weren't going to have her with Enzo and Cass? They might as well have just kept her down in NXT. It was literally the same thing they did with Enzo, Cass, and Carmella is the same thing they did with Sanity and Nikki Cross. Having Sanity come up but keeping Nikki Cross down in NXT. It made no sense. It was like either have all of them come up or have none of them come up. At least that's just my opinion. But yeah, this was a good hard-hitting match, and Asuka got the win. And now she will defend the SmackDown Women's title, hopefully at WrestleMania. Not hopefully, but she will. I just don't know who yet. But next match, Miz and Shane McMahon going against The Bar, Cesaro and Sheamus, who were defending the SmackDown Tag Team titles. I was completely caught off guard by this match. I want to make this perfectly clear. I no longer watch Raw and SmackDown in its entirety anymore because I no longer have cable television. And I do not want to have Hulu. I cannot, not that I can't afford it because I can afford it, but I don't want Hulu. Because if I get Hulu, I'm only going to use it to watch Raw and SmackDown. I'm literally not going to use it for anything else. So that, and a lot of times I don't have time to watch highlights that some YouTubers upload on here. So usually I'll just watch clips from the WWE's YouTube channel. So I was completely caught off guard by this match. I didn't even know this match was happening. I knew that The Miz and Shane had started teaming up, and I knew they were feuding with The Bar, but I didn't think they would make this match official for the Rumble. But they did. This was a fun match, and it was really good. It was surprisingly good for how short it was and for who was involved in the match, being Miz and Shane McMahon. Now, granted, Miz has gotten a lot better in the ring over the last, I'd say 2, maybe 3 years, even though it took him long enough. But he had to be motivated within the right circumstances, and he had to have the right opponents, which he's had the right opponents in there for the last, I'd say, 4 years. So it got better, he got better, and it showed, and it continues to show. Even though I don't know how much that's going to work to his favor, because Miz is past his prime now, and he's going to be 40 next year. You know, granted, his body is not breaking down because he's had a high IQ and understanding of his physical limitations, and the fact that he's aging. He's had a well put together understanding of that. So he's essentially had the same style for basically his whole career. And you can tell he wants to wrestle into his 40s. So, and that shows. So he's smart. Miz is very smart for that. But it's just a shame that he's just now starting to get better. I don't believe Miz is going to ever be world champion again, because they've had about 2, almost 3 years to pull the trigger on that. Ever since Miz cut that explosive promo on Daniel Bryan on Talking Smack. Ever since then, they've had multiple chances to have Miz become WWE champion again, and they didn't do it. So at this point, I don't see him ever getting the title again. That doesn't mean he won't, but it's just my personal opinion that he won't. I just don't see it. Not at this point, especially with the roster that they have, and there's so many other guys that are better than him and younger. So that, that's not to his favor. So respect to the Bar for having old Diamondbacks colors, the old Arizona Diamondbacks color scheme for their uniform. They used to wear purple and white, I believe. Purple, white, and like a kind of turquoise, kind of a blue. I could be wrong. But I saw that and it just stuck out to me. Now let's talk about the finish. Shane McMahon in that shooting star press. Now there were some people on Twitter that said that Shane delivered a better shooting star press than Brock did at WrestleMania 19. And I'd like to clarify that sentiment, okay? There were 2 issues, maybe 3 issues, with Brock Lesnar's infamous shooting star press attempt to Kurt Angle back at WrestleMania 19. And I've gone back and watched that match I don't know how many times. And it's always the same thing that reigns true for me each time I go back and watch the match. Brock was too big to be doing that, even though he was able to successfully pull it off multiple times when he was in OVW back in the early 2000s when he was in developmental. Number 2, Brock's hesitation is what screwed up the move. Because you could see he was a little hesitant in terms of jumping off the turnbuckle. And 3, Kurt Angle was almost halfway across the ring. Kurt was way too far. Even if Brock didn't hesitate and just shot up and took off and did the move, he still would have landed on his head because Kurt was just too far away. We're talking about Brock Lesnar giving a shooting star press to Kurt Angle. We're not talking about RVD doing a 5-star frog splash to Kurt Angle. You know how RVD can jump all the way across the ring just to connect the 5-star frog splash? No matter where you are, RVD can do it. No matter where you are in the ring, he can go all the way across and do it. There's a difference between RVD and Brock Lesnar, okay? And Kurt being the ring veteran that he was at that time and still being relatively at his absolute best, he should have known that, and he should have rolled over at least once or twice just to get into the right position for Brock to be able to execute the shooting star press. So it's half and half. It's half Brock's fault and it's half Kurt's fault. But I would say it's mostly Kurt's fault because he was the veteran, not Brock. Brock hadn't even been on the main roster a whole year when he had that match with Kurt. Kurt had been in the company for what, over 5 years at that point? So, I mean, come on. And Shane was real impressive. I was impressed by the shooting star press. I really was. After years and years and years of trying to hit it since 2001 and failing, he finally hit it this past Sunday. So props to him. Even though he almost botched it. Like, he almost didn't land cleanly on Cesaro. Or was it Sheamus that he did it to? No, he did it to Sheamus because Sheamus accidentally kicked Cesaro. So, but I didn't expect them to land smoothly on it because we got to remember Shane is almost 50. He'll be 49 this year. So Miz and Shane are the new SmackDown Tag Team Champions. They're saying that Miz and Shane are going to end up feuding and they're going to end up having a match against each other at WrestleMania, which I have no interest in that whatsoever. I don't. In fact, I have no real interest in seeing Shane wrestle anymore at this point. I was surprised that Shane even wrestled past the Undertaker match back at WrestleMania 32. I might have been the only one, but I thought that was going to be his last match, and it ended up not being his last match. But I thought he was only going to come back one time for the sake of his kids, because his kids had never seen him wrestle. Alright, moving on. Ronda Rousey defending the Raw Women's title against Sasha Banks. Oh boy. Rubbing my hands together like Birdman on this one. Okay, let's talk about this, because I have a lot to say about this match. This is going to be a long review now that I think about it, because I got a lot to say about this match, and I wrote a lot of notes as well. Can we please acknowledge that Ronda Rousey is actually a good wrestler now? When are we going to do that? Can we please acknowledge that 2018 was her year? Can we please acknowledge that she was no doubt, undoubtedly, Rookie of the Year? Can we please acknowledge that? I mean, Pro Wrestling Illustrated even said it themselves. Not to say that if they say it's true, then it must be true. But Pro Wrestling Illustrated is a very useful source. And has been ever since its inception. Alright. Now, some people say that this was Ronda Rousey's best match since making her debut at last year's WrestleMania. It's debatable. And I say it's debatable because I am still in awe of the match that she had with Charlotte back at Survivor Series. There was just something different about that match. There was something more intense, more physical about that match. I think that with that match, I think that is the only match that Ronda has had since making her debut at WrestleMania where I actually thought she was going to lose. And then, of course, you had the DQ finish where Charlotte just unloaded on her with the kendo stick. But it's a toss up. It's a toss up between her match with Charlotte at Survivor Series and her match with Sasha this past Sunday. Now, can we also acknowledge that Sasha didn't carry Ronda, because there's no such thing as carrying anybody in wrestling. I'm going to repeat that one more time for you peeps and some of you asshole fans that don't understand what you're watching. There is no such thing as carrying somebody in wrestling. It takes two to tango. Whoever you can get a good match out of is a good wrestler as well as you. Okay? This match was really good. I'm surprised that it was short. I didn't think it was this short. It was 13:55. I thought it was longer than that. Felt longer than that. This was a long show, period. So everything felt... Every match felt like it was an hour long to me. Okay? I'm sorry. But Ronda is good. So can we stop with that first off? Second of all, Sasha didn't carry her. It takes two to tango. Because nobody was saying Sasha carried Alexa Bliss when they feuded. Alright? So, this match was pretty good, except at times it was very sloppy. But I'm not going to criticize, I'm not going to come down hard on Sasha and Ronda for the sloppiness, because that was the first time that they literally wrestled each other. Ever. First time one-on-one. Including house shows. They had never even went one-on-one on a house show before. So this was the first time they actually went one-on-one. This was legitimately the first ever match between the two. So of course it's going to be somewhat sloppy. But it didn't take away from the match. It didn't take away from the match under any circumstances. Now I've gone and I've listened to some other people review the show, review the Royal Rumble. Nobody mentioned how the announcer, who was the announcer? I don't remember who the announcer was. Was it Greg Hamilton? Was it Greg? Or maybe it was Mike Rome. I don't know who announced who the announcer was for this match. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can look and see who the announcer was for the match. Here we go. Ring announcers. Mike Rome. Okay, it was Mike Rome. I knew it was Mike Rome that announced it. Okay, so apparently, we can't announce where Ronda's from anymore. That was just, I know it's a little, oh, hope y'all didn't hear that. I know that's being a little nitpicky about it, but that was just something that stuck out to me that I felt like I had to point out. It was just weird that they mentioned where Sasha was from, but they didn't mention where Ronda's from, which is Venice Beach, California. Let me see. There was this one moment where they were doing the universal spot. Not many people call it the universal spot, but it is the universal spot. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about when I say the universal spot. I'm making no reference to the Universal Championship. I'm talking about the universal spot. Because I remember the first time when I started training in wrestling, first thing I was taught was, besides a lockup and taking a bump, I was taught the universal spot. Ronda took a bit too long to come down from the universal spot. You know, the part of the spot where Sasha threw Ronda. No. What? Yeah. Sasha threw Ronda into the corner. Ronda was going, not head first, but she was going basically the way that Brett used to sell getting thrown into the turnbuckle. Like, he was going based on his front. And Ronda came up, opened her legs so she can counter Sasha running at her. That's what I meant by she took too long to come down. If you go back and watch the Universal spot, you'll know what I'm talking about because I can't really put it into words. It's hard to explain. Ronda's Three Amigos, or Three Amigos attempt, I don't think she finished it, but her Three Amigos attempt, I thought that was pretty cool. The psychology of this match was down. It really was. Sasha, I think she needs to stop doing the suicide dive because every time she does it, it looks very weird and awkward. First of all, she doesn't go straight through the ropes. She goes straight through the ropes, and then midway through, she turns to her side. So it literally looks like a side suicide dive. Okay, look at the way that Seth Rollins does the suicide dive. He goes all the way straight through. He doesn't turn on the move. Look at the way Dean Ambrose used to do the suicide dive when he was a babyface. He would go straight through. But for some reason, when Sasha does it, when she goes through the ropes, about half a second after going through the ropes, she turns sideways. I don't know why she does that. I think she should stop doing that. Because every time she does that, not only does it look awkward on screen, but Sasha almost hurts herself every single time she does it. You go back and watch her feud with Charlotte and her doing the suicide dive. Like, just go back and watch every time that she's done it since coming up to the main roster. There have been many times where she's almost landed on her head doing the move. I don't know if it's a momentum issue, a velocity issue, or just lack of self-control over her body, or maybe just adrenaline, but maybe she just needs to stop doing a suicide dive if she can't do it the way it's been done for years. I'm just saying. And if that's her own way of doing it, then that's fine too, but I don't know. Maybe I just sound too concerned. Maybe that's what it is, but that's how I feel about it. It's kind of scary every time. I cringe every time I see her do the suicide dive. A lot of times I hope that she doesn't even do it or attempt it. I like the spot where Ronda was about to forearm Sasha while holding Sasha's head on the ring post outside, and she missed and hit her forearm. I like that the LED part of the ring post cut off for a little bit. That was pretty cool. Ronda botched that step-up punch that she does now. That new step-up punch. I don't know what the problem was. I think Sasha might have fell too early. I think that's what it was. But it just looked awkward and weird compared to when she did it to Nia back at TLC. Couldn't tell if Sasha was biting Ronda's finger. I believe that was maybe she was attempting an armbar of sorts to Ronda. It was that armbar that looked like that almost looked like what the hell is Johnny Gargano's finish? What the hell is the name of it? I'm forgetting the name of moves. That's insane. I'm forgetting it. This is ridiculous. But Sasha was attempting that or something similar to that, and I couldn't tell if she was biting Ronda's finger. I would have to go back and watch this match. And Ronda, of course, the finish of the match was Ronda giving Sasha the Piper's Pit, which there are times where I like the move because it's just basically a twisting Samoan drop. There are times where I like the move, and then there's some times where it just looks terrible. It just looks terrible. As bad as the big ending is from Big E, except with Big E, it just looks like he's falling on himself as opposed to delivering a devastating move. But overall, this match was really good. It was a little bit sloppy, but of course it's going to happen between two wrestlers in there with each other for the first time ever. Ronda retained the Raw Women's title, which I expected. The Ronda hate is unnecessary and barbaric at times. We're talking about a woman who gave Nia arguably two of her best matches of her entire career. I'm talking about Nia Jax. We're talking about a woman who's just constantly been having great to classic matches. I think the only match that wasn't good that she had was against Alexa Bliss back at SummerSlam and the Hell in a Cell rematch. Other than that, she's constantly been having great borderline classics with everybody that she's worked with. So this whole notion that she can't wrestle and that she's only where she is because of her name, at first, yes. You know, not many people could say that their first wrestling match ever was at WrestleMania. Not many people can say that. So yeah, Ronda is where she is because of her name, but she built that name. And the UFC helped build that name. And now WWE is going to keep that name going. So of course, this whole, oh, she was given the title immediately because of her name. Well, no shit. No shit she was. To the fans that complain about Ronda's push and Ronda's momentum and things of that nature, I like to remember, I think that it was this one guy in WCW. I could be wrong. I don't know if I remember this. But it was this one guy in WCW. Came in around 95. I believe the fall. It was the fall of 95. And the Dungeon of Doom. They introduced this man, and he ended up becoming arguably the greatest giant of all time. What was this? What was his name? He had long hair, goatee. He was about 23 years old. Trained in the power plant for like 6 months, maybe even less than that. Had no experience whatsoever. Wasn't even meant to be in the wrestling business, but Sting and Luger discovered him, I believe, something like that. And the Giant, he was booked as Andre's son, even though we all knew that was a crock of shit. The Giant, yes, the Giant, who went on to become Big Show. Didn't he win the World Heavyweight title in his first match? Didn't Goldberg win the World Heavyweight title too soon? Didn't Kevin Nash win the World Heavyweight title in the WWF within a year that he came in as Diesel? Was he ready? Arguably not. Was he an effective world champion for the company? No. I don't see nobody complaining about that. I mean, come on, let's be real here, people, alright? Ronda Rousey is a draw. She's a draw. So if you're a draw, of course you're going to be given everything. Because you're a draw. At the end of the day, this is a business first. And that does not apply only to the wrestling business. That applies to all sports. All sports, at the end of the day, first and foremost, before anything else, it's a money-making business first, and then sport second. Okay? We have to be cognizant of that. We have to be aware of that. These people need to make money to keep the train going. Otherwise, they're out of business. Why you think that quick sports analogy, if the ABA was just solely focused on their talent, don't you think they would, and I'm talking about the original ABA, don't you think they would still be around today? I'm not talking about that Bush League amateur circuit league known as the current ABA. I'm not talking about that. Even though I don't even think that ABA is around anymore either. I'm talking about the original one with Julius Erving, with Moses Malone, with Billy Cunningham. I believe Billy Cunningham was in it. Rick Barry, Artist Gilmore, those guys. If the ABA was so focused on talent, don't you think they would still be around today? Why did the ABA fail? Because of business side of things. We have to remember that. These are businesses first, sports second. It is what it is. It is what it is. You either deal with it or you watch something else that's not as successful as the WWE. You go on ahead and do that. So we have to stop complaining of this wrestler getting pushed because of their name. Well, no shit. What do you think that Stone Cold Steve Austin became? What do you think The Rock was? What do you think, I'm trying to think who else. What do you think Brock Lesnar eventually became when he came back? All of these guys became a name. Why do you think that the WWE keeps bringing back part-timers? If this was solely based on talent and in-ring ability, do you think any of these part-timers would come back? Hell no. Why do they come back? Paycheck, name, drawing power, pay-per-view buys, revenue. These are the things that are important. These are the things that keep the WWE afloat. So we have to stop with this nonsense, this silly nonsense of Ronda only being where she is because of her name. Well, no shit. But I also like to believe, and I do believe, that she's actually been putting in the work and effort since she's got here. Can we please acknowledge that finally? And I'm talking about all of us, without some insane, borderline creepy ass emotional bias towards the other women that have been here the whole time. Because they've been here the whole time. Well, okay, you can be a part of a company as long as you want. But if you're not good, you're not good. I don't care how long you've been anywhere. Now, this isn't me saying that the four horsewomen of WWE aren't good. I'm not saying that at all. I like to think that Sasha is the most talented out of all of the four horsewomen, even though Charlotte is the most technical. And Bayley is the most physical to a degree, and also she brings that emotion and psychology to her matches more than any other four do. And Becky is the least great out of the four, even though she's still good. She's still very good. Even though Becky is slow in the ring, she's not a good striker, and her timing is off at times. But I still think that she's really good. So that's it about that. It was a great match. At the end, they teased Sasha's heel turn, which I'm kind of disappointed that they just didn't go on with it. I thought Sasha, when she walked away pissed off after they shook hands, she walked away pissed off. And then she came back, and originally I thought she was going to attack Ronda from behind and just beat the ever-loving shit out of her. But instead, she came back, shook hands with Ronda again, and then walked away, putting up the 4. Which, the 4 horsewomen of WWE, they don't even put up the 4 right. You're supposed to have your fingers crooked. The fingers are supposed to be slightly crooked. That's how the 4 horsemen used to do it. When they would put the 4 up, their fingers would be slightly crooked. But that's neither here nor there. That's just nitpicking shit. But I just wanted to mention that for all of you WWE horsewomen stans out there and creepy, emotionally biased fans. Okay, now, what do we got next? The Women's Rumble match. That was way too long because of a lot of things. Once again, this show was way too long. Way too long. But it was a good women's Rumble match. Was it as good as last year's was? No, but it was still very good. Um, as a matter of fact, let's go down to the entrances and eliminations. So we had Lacey Evans coming in number one. She scored 2 eliminations, was in 29 minutes. Y'all could read all of that. I don't need to go through all of that. Mickey James missed kick and punch to eliminate Mandy. Yeah, that was very awkward. I don't know. Look, none but respect for Mickey James. She's an all-time great, no doubt. But ever since she's come back, she's off. Like, a lot of her in-ring work is off. Every time I see her wrestle, I don't want to say she always screws up something, but everything is just sloppy and mistimed, and it literally doesn't matter who she's in the ring with. But a lot of things are just sloppy and mistimed and just all of that. Me personally, I don't understand how people believe that she will be women's champion one more time before she retires. I don't see that happening at this point. If it does, then that's cool. I would like to see it though, but they had about 2 chances to do that, and they didn't do it. So I just don't see that happening at this point. Mickey is for some reason Mickey is very rusty. Even though she's been wrestling this whole time, she's never taken an extended period of time off, besides when she was pregnant. But other than that, she has never taken an extended period of time off, and she hasn't been hurt like that. So I don't understand why Mickey still feels and looks very rusty in the ring. And you could make an argument that it's because they keep putting her in tag team matches as opposed to one-on-one matches. If they would put her in more singles matches and give her about 20 to 25 minutes of time to wrestle one-on-one with somebody else on the roster, she wouldn't look as rusty and as sloppy. But it's just strange seeing her wrestle now. She's not as crisp as she used to be. You know, last time I thought Mickey was still effective and able to hold her own in the ring was in TNA. Ever since then, I don't see it anymore. I just don't see it anymore. Nikki Cross came in at number 8. It was very funny when she, I don't want to exaggerate it, because I exaggerated in my notes. I wrote she tackled the fuck out of Billie Kay into the barricade as she was coming down the ramp, even though that's not what happened. But she did tackle. She sort of tackled Billie Kay. I thought that was a funny spot during the match. I like how Nikki Cross reminds me of the Ultimate Warrior on cocaine, which I don't know how the hell that's possible, because Ultimate Warrior looked like he was on cocaine 24/7 anyway. So how do you look like someone who already was on cocaine but on more cocaine is beyond me. Oh, Nikki Cross. It would be ironic, but not too ironic, if she ended up getting suspended at some point for failing the wellness policy. I would laugh, and then I'd be like, damn, that's crazy. Because she plays her role so well, and that wild card, that crazy wild card, you know. It's kind of strange, because what she is what Dean Ambrose should have became when the Shield broke up. But Dean was never really that wild. Even though he was insanely over, I'm not going to question that whatsoever. I remember that time period. Dean was incredibly over in 2014 and 15. But it just seems like Nikki Cross plays it better. Just my personal opinion. Um, the stare down between Lacey Evans and Charlotte, my God, they mirrored each other insanely. Like, they're almost the same height. They're both blonde. And I, like, for a few moments as I was watching, I was just saying to myself, damn, I can barely tell the difference between these two. Except for those two things in the middle of Charlotte's chest. But nonetheless, Alicia Fox, what the fuck, is what I wrote in my note. Alicia Fox, what the fuck, is what I wrote in my notes. That little dance that she did when she came out of the dugout to enter the ring. I laughed so hard. Alicia Fox is gonna go down as, I would say, the most underrated woman in the history of wrestling. For real. People tend to forget how good she is because they don't showcase her enough. But Alicia Fox is arguably one of the best utility players of all time in the not just in the history of women's wrestling, but in the history of wrestling, period. Alicia Fox, if you need somebody to go out there and make somebody look good, Foxy can do that. She can definitely do that, no doubt. If half or 70 to 80% of the women's roster are hurt or just terrible, you send Alicia Fox out there and you're good. Like, that company needs her, and they need to keep her as long as they possibly can. For real. Because she's very reliable. She's very reliable and valuable in that sense of being a utility veteran. I think that she's a better utility veteran in a way more than Natty is. Natty is just the better wrestler. But yeah, Foxy. She actually had a pretty good match with Nia at some point. At least I thought. I believe it was on the pre-show of, I believe, Clash of Champions. It was either back in 2016 or 17. One of you peeps can correct me on which Clash of Champions it was. I think it was 16 or 17, the pre-show. It was a pretty good match between Alicia Fox and Nia Jax. For those two not being that good, it was still good. You understand what I'm saying? Casey Catanzaro. I spelled Catanzaro wrong. Catanzaro. Okay, Catanzaro. That's how you spell it. Alright. I spelled it wrong. But, my God. I know some people are going to be upset with me that I'm about to say this, but if they would have been able to hire Casey Catanzaro, I'd say 4 to 5 years ago, Alexa Bliss would not be here. She would not be in this company. I have to say that. And I know I'm not the only one that thinks that right now. Because they're the same size, same stature, same body type. Except Casey is a million times more athletic than Alexa is. Which is ironic because Alexa comes from an athletic background. She was a cheerleader and she was a bodybuilder. So it's ironic, but Casey, my God, she's cool. And I was looking her up because I didn't know who she was when I saw her Sunday. I know that she's in NXT, but I'm pretty sure she's still fairly brand new to NXT. So I haven't seen her wrestle a match yet. But I looked her up a little bit and I noticed that she was a what do you call it? Matter of fact, let's search for her up a little bit. She was an obstacle competitor. Yes. Yeah, she was a part of American Ninja Warrior. Yes. Yeah. So once I saw that, I was like, this girl is going to be gold. in the WWE. She's going to be gold, and she's going to be A-okay. She just has to further develop and become skilled in the ring as opposed to just athletic. You want to be it's not bad to be athletic, but you want to be athletic and skilled as well. More so skilled than athletic. Skill is, you put skill over everything. Skill and mindset. Zelina Vega dressed up as Vega from Street Fighter. I thought that was cool. I thought that was really cool. Renee Young had a malfunction with her words, not knowing what the hell she was gonna say. She was struggling to get the words out. I have those moments, I'm not gonna lie, but it was just funny to see her have those moments. Renee, she's slowly getting better. You could tell she's getting a little bit more comfortable on commentary. But when she first came back to commentary, I thought she was useless. I really thought she was useless. I just thought to myself, Renee, go away. Just stay in the back. Stay in the back. Riot Squad dominance. I like that the Riot Squad dominated a certain percentage of the Rumble. I just wish that all three of them were just still in the Rumble when they had that little dominance that they were going on. Instead of Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan getting eliminated before Ruby came out. Like, I didn't like that aspect of it. If you were just going to have them dominate anyway, you might as well just still have all three of them be legal in the Rumble. It was strange. It was stupid, I thought. Zelina Vega hiding under the ring was the funniest part of the match. Anytime she would stick her head out after somebody got eliminated and laugh at them, I would start dying laughing with her. There was this one part, I believe it was when it might have been when Naomi got eliminated. I'm not sure, I could be wrong. But it was this one point in the match where somebody got eliminated, and Zelina stuck her head out and just started laughing. I mean, laughing hard. And it was so genuine. It was such a genuine laugh. And I was just looking at it, and then I started laughing. Like, it was hilarious. I ain't gonna hold you. It was really hilarious. Now the Kofi spots for the women. No problem with the Kofi spots. My only issue was the fact that they had 3 women perform Kofi spots for the Rumble. That was overkill. That was overkill to me. You had Ember Moon, Naomi, and Casey Catanzaro each have their own Kofi Kingston moment in the Rumble, which it killed it for me. It killed it. By the time the women's Rumble ended, I didn't want to see any spot like that for the rest of the night. And then, of course, you had to have Kofi do it. But I don't know. It was just something about that felt forced. It felt like they were trying too hard to make this year's women's Rumble memorable. I don't think having those spots made it memorable. I don't think looking back years from now people are going to remember that. They're going to remember Casey, though, because she is just freakishly, insanely athletic for someone her size. But the other ones, not so much to me. They just weren't impressive to me. Because it was like, okay, we've seen one, that's fine. But now we have to see 2 more of the same spot, essentially, just done differently. I didn't like Naomi's Kofi spot of walking across the barricade and jumping back in the ring because John Morrison had already done that in 2011. So why would we need to see that again? If you're gonna come up with if you're gonna want to do a Kofi type save spot, then at least be creative with it. Don't have Naomi do something that somebody else did years ago. I'm just saying. Because I immediately thought to myself, didn't John Morrison do this shit like 8 years ago? I immediately remembered that. It was still fresh in my mind. And Ember Moon, I forgot what her save spot was. What was her save spot? Oh, her feet dangling on the little on the bottom rope. I believe it was when it was either I believe it was either Charlotte or Alexa Bliss trying to eliminate her when she had that I believe it might have been Bliss trying to eliminate her, or it might have been Mandy Rose. I don't remember. Somebody was trying to eliminate Ember Moon, and her feet were dangling off of the bottom rope, like literally holding on, like her toes were holding on to the bottom rope, and she had like a little handstand, a semi handstand, on the floor. Lana took 5 years to get in the ring. That made it ridiculous. You know what's crazy is that from a kayfabe standpoint, what happened with Lana was just super ridiculous. Because if you think about it from a kayfabe standpoint, it's like